About 7 years ago, I, a 27-year-old female, still lived with my grandparents in their small, rural home. My grandparents had gone on a 2-week trip, and I decided to stay home so I could bask in the alone time. About a week into their trip, and my alone time, my dog, a little toy poodle, started going nuts at the patio door. He's not a guard dog per se, but he's a great watchdog. I thought it was weird, because he was just standing in front of the patio door, growling his little head off. My dog never just growls like that. He barks at possums, raccoons and the like, but he doesn't growl. He really sounded like he wanted to hurt something. I knew something was up. So I made my way towards the door when I heard voices.
Hey, over there. Get that now. Try the door.
The curtains were closed, so I couldn't see anything. But I could distinctly hear 2 male voices on my back deck. Then I saw the handle of the door being messed with, like someone was trying to pick the lock. I freaked out internally, to be honest, but for some reason, I was very calm externally. I simply walked to the gun cabinet, retrieved my grandpa's revolver, made sure it was loaded, and then returned to the patio door. I thought my voice would shake when I spoke up because the voice in my head was shaking, but my physical voice was extremely calm, cold, and collected. I don't know how to explain it really. I was a completely different person for all of about 3 minutes. To this day, I remember exactly what I said. I have a gun, it's loaded, the safety is off, and I won't miss. I'd barely finished my sentence when I heard frantic scrambling. Then I heard a truck start, and I got to the front window in time to see a truck pull out of the driveway and speed off. I have no idea how the hell I didn't hear them pulling in the first place. Obviously, they weren't looking to run into anyone. My car was in the shop at the time, so no vehicle parked in the driveway. I often keep lights off to save on the electric bill, and will only use lighting near the room that I'm in. My room at the time had blackout curtains, so they wouldn't have seen the light. They must have assumed no one was home. The whole night was a surreal experience for me. It remains one of the most detailed memories I have. My store is located in the middle of a fairly rich neighbourhood, right next to the cemetery. It was close to closing time, and my manager and I were gathering up our stuff and finishing the last of the paperwork when we heard the door open. Instinctively, I walked out onto the floor and began saying my opening statement. Hi, welcome to and then I froze. The temperature in the room had dropped by 10 degrees, and there was no one to be found. My manager came out after me. Looks like the damn door is broken again, I said. It was normal for us to hear the door open during the day and have no one enter. Still, we checked all the aisles to make sure no one was trying to steal anything. I even checked the parking lot, and there were no cars beside the ones that we drive. Thinking nothing of it, we went home. The next day, I arrived in the parking lot, and the windows are boarded up, almost like they were broken. The door was open, so I walked in to see what was going on. It looked like the store had been hit by a tornado. There was chemicals all over the floor. Boxes had been torn to shreds. Products were everywhere. But the most disturbing thing was the dark red liquid leading from the store to the closet. Slowly, I walked towards the front door. I tried to open it, but it was jammed shut. How? I'd been here for 5 minutes, maybe less. Maybe I was dreaming, so I shut my eyes and pinched myself. No, this was real life. I took a closer look at the closet door. Written in blood was a name. Alex. Whatever did this knew my name. Quickly, I went to the main computer. Maybe there was something caught on the cameras. Nothing. Not a single bit of evidence. If I called the cops, they would just label me as crazy and probably throw me in jail. But would it be better than living like this? I took the risk. Roughly 10 minutes later, the cops show up. They asked the usual questions and investigated the scene. Then they did something I wish I could unsee. They opened the closet door. Inside was a bucket full of blood and body parts. On a shelf above the bucket was my manager's head. The cops gathered the head and the bucket in the bag. Once they left, I noticed a piece of paper on the shelf where the head was. "You're next," was hastily scribbled in. I got out of there and into my truck as fast as I could. I started the engine and floored it to the most isolated place I could think of, my hunting camp. I had to be safe there, especially with all the rifles. About 3 hours later, I finally arrived at my camp. Quickly, I entered the cabin and locked the door tight. Whatever was after me, I pray will never find me here. If there is anyone getting this message, please, send help. Back in my childhood, I've had a few questionable encounters with unexplainable events. The most memorable string of events was when I was living in my old stomping grounds back in Texas several years ago. I was just a child, so of course that real life fear factor wasn't exactly a thing I could process with my undeveloped mind. I just saw everything as mildly unnerving or, as I would imagine it, not right. I couldn't tell you if it was a paranormal encounter or humanoid encounter. Back before I hit middle school, I used to be a rambunctious child, annoying, go-lucky, goofy kid that didn't really listen to anything and just did my own thing. I was rather observant though, to say the least. We had recess every day around 10:30 or 11 AM, sometime after lunch. I wasn't exactly super popular, so I didn't hang out in these big groups of people. I mostly kept to myself unless I was playing with my best friend. One of those days when I was on my own, I was looking around this small park area. You know those colourful children's playground structures? It's easy to notice small details. As I was scouting out the playground, minding my own business until it was time to go inside, I noticed small carvings into the large red poles that supported the entire structure. It was almost the shape of a trident with a horizontal line on the bottom of the handle. These carvings were on every single pole in different areas, on each different pole. Even though I didn't have the cognitive ability to process true fear, I still wasn't numb. I thought something was off, so I brought it my best friend, and he said he experienced something weird as well. He said he had a dream about walking into the park, and that he'd woken up in the park and had to call his dad to come pick him up. I shit you not. We walked to the spot he walked, and there was an imprint of his feet in the grass. At that point, I was just confused and a bit disturbed, not really understanding how something like this could have been possible. I went home that night, not sure what to think at all. I lied down at 9:30 PM and seemed to sleep alright, despite the recent events. I woke up at around 1 to 2 AM like I normally did. I had a really weird schedule when I was younger. I usually woke up and just played on my computer until it was time to get dressed. My dad was usually at work by the time I got ready. He comes down and says goodbye to me before he takes off for work around 5:30, 6 AM. I got ready that morning around 7:30 AM, but I noticed at the top of my stairs, the bathroom door was closed, the light was on, and the water was running. Of course I hadn't forgotten about yesterday, and this further increased my growing fear. I had gone up there and opened the door to see nobody was in there. I just assumed my dad left it in that state in a rush. I turned the water off and picked up my turtleneck that was behind the door, meaning to put it in the wash, but as I turned to leave, I had heard a ghastly voice tell me to get out.
Get out.
I'll tell you one thing. I had never moved so fast to get out of that house in my life. I bolted out of the front door and ran the mile or two to school, freaked out, not sure what the hell was even going on anymore. I had told my friends about this voice and he was startled as well. The day went by and the carvings were all gone, as if they weren't even there in the first place. Now at this point, I was baffled. I racked my brain to see if I had even seen those markings at all, or if I was just imagining it. I went back to the feet imprints and those too were gone. I went home that night and sat at my desk for a while thinking. Later that night, I lied down again around 9:30 PM, trying to keep my mind off it and in return for a decent sleep. Not but 30 minutes after I lied down, right before I fell asleep, I heard a small scrape on my window. My room was on the second floor, and no, it wasn't a tree branch because we had no trees in our backyard. There was a part of the roof that kind of extended beneath my window, sturdy enough for me to sit or stand on and look over my fence at the rest of the neighbourhood by my house. This is when I questioned reality, because I had simply thought an animal of some sort was on my roof and scraped the glass just scurrying by my window. But to my dismay, it was nothing of the sort. It was a human-sized figure peering into my window. It must have noticed me jolt upright because once I did, it scurried up my window and onto the roof of the house above the window. It literally crawled across the glass. I've never told anybody about that encounter. It recently snowed outside my house and the snow had settled after it rained. So the snow is rough and it's easy to hear footsteps and movements outside my window. Not about an hour ago, I heard something run by my window on all fours, judging by how fast the feet hit the ground. Whatever ran by me was snarling, grunting and gurgling. Naturally, I'd assume it was a stray dog. But it couldn't have been. I've never heard a dog make those kind of noises. I wish I could tell you this was fake, or that I had any proof of any of this happening. But I think something is stalking me, or something is haunting me. It's been almost 10 years now, and is ongoing. I've had several of these encounters, several of these experiences with a humanoid creature, an apparition of some sort. I really don't know. All I know is that I'm extremely confused, and at this moment, I'm watching my back even as I write this. I'm not easily shaken by real life events, but this is different.